Hello, my name is Lee Allen, and this is the Democracy If You Can Keep It podcast. I'm joined by my co-hosts, dear Thomas Hayward and Mr. Michael Dennis.
Hello,
We're
Lee.
going to talk about some three hugely important issues later on, but for now we're going to discuss a bit about ourselves and where we sit on the political compass. Michael, if you'd like to say what party you belong to.
Yeah, hello. So I'm Michael. Unlike other people of our sort of demographic of age, I am a conservative and definitely a centrist right.
Yeah, bloody conservatives, I tell you. Personally, I am a member of the Labour Party and of the Cooperative Party. A big believer in the Rochdale principles that I am. I would say I'm more of a democratic socialist, a Bernie Sanders kind of way. Maybe more, somewhere between Neil Kinnock, something like that. Dear Thomas, where do you sit?
Well, I am also likely a member of the Labour Party, and I would say that I position myself on the political spectrum, uh, more to the sort of centre ground, really. Believer of the economic left-wing policies, but also still hold some or conservative views on other things, including social policy.
Well, then you're going to like one of the things we're talking about today, Thomas. Michael, if you'd like to start us off, what are one of the key things we're talking about?
Yeah, well, the big topic of the week is the recalling of Parliament yesterday for today to be recalled on British Steel. Now, the British Steel, there's been over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of talk about British Steel and Trump and his tariffs and what's going to happen. And yesterday afternoon, the House of Lords and also the House of Commons were both recalled to Parliament today to discuss what they're going to do in terms of the bill. And so they created a new law, which is, forgive me if I don't get it right, but it's the British Steel Bill 2025, and special measures or something like that. And yeah. Does anyone want to come in with their views on this?
I'll tell you what really grinds my gears, right, is the Labour Party and Cooperative, because we've been together now since the 20s, has always stood for nationalisation. Clause 4, back in the day, used to say that we support nationalisation of infrastructure to help the public. We changed it in the 1990s under Blair. We changed it into more of a sort of helping everyone and things like that. So Labour Party's always stood for nationalisation of British steel. Thatcher privatised it in the 80s. And now Reform, who are economically liberal, who very much believe in Thatcher's ideas on a lot of things, are now attempting to portray themselves as almost socialistic. I saw a video of Richard Tice where he was saying, oh yes, we have always said that British steel should be nationalised and we really want it. And now Labour are backing down and doing what we want them to. Well, they didn't seem to have the same view on the NHS. That's all I'm going to say.
But going to what you said, I sort of agree with you. But the fact is that to go from in one day to go from a privately owned company by a Chinese company to go straight to nationalisation, I don't think that's really what the bill is actually set out to do.
What does it set out to do, though?
The bill is well, the bill is not a takeover. It is a readjustment of responsibilities for the plant. So, although in name and in legality, the mill will be still run by the Chinese company in question, the British government will be, well, specifically the business secretary, will be able to hold the responsibilities of hiring and firing officers within the operations of the plant. They will also be responsible as well for the ordering of resources for the mill's operations. So that is the key difference here. This is not a complete renationalization, but complete takeover. This is just a relocating of responsibilities that bring more of a government role into the operations of the plant.
Well, if you ask me, it should be a complete takeover because in sectors like this, steel, healthcare, the armed forces, you can't have competition in the market. It's just impossible without hurting people. I think it should be. I'm very happy our government has obviously done it. I think it was a incredibly good move on Keir Starmer.
I actually agree with that. I mean, I would say there's been quite a lot of cross-party support, especially in the Lords with the bill, because like Baroness Coffey, who's he was obviously the deputy to Liz Truss back in 2022, said about like how the business secretary, there should be some sort of like a report that he produces or that they produce to as a monitoring procedure and ensuring that like there's no legalities that are actually being broken, and also the updating how the act looks. However, I sort of feel like, going back to what you were saying, I don't really know how we like keep an eye on the British deal now in terms of not having any formal like report or anything. Obviously, they said they're going to update us every 4 weeks in the Commons, but is that really the right thing to do?
Isn't Coffey the one that did karaoke with Hancock back in like 2020? I know it's something like that.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, I'm surprised that she's behind it because she was deputy PM to Liz Truss, who seemed to very much want to go back to the 80s neoconservative ideas of sell everything that's nailed, that even the stuff that's nailed down, and sell it all off. So maybe surprised you with talent.
This is why they wanted to put in this sunset clause. So Tory peer Lord David Hutton wanted to put in the sunset clause. So like in say a year's time, the bill ends. So it's like a temporary measure in terms of like the business actually having, say, 20 years time. They still have ownership of, or not ownership. They have control over. Sorry, the British Steel, which I do sort of agree with, because I feel like that you could get some very political loopholes through that of issues.
Yes, there was a similar case raised again in the House of Commons when, during the second reading, one of the Tory backbenchers made a similar point about a sunset clause should be included.
Yes,
The government's response to that was that due to the unpredictability of the company that they're working with, there is no real way for them to, at least for now, to responsibly add a sunset clause into the legislation, just due to the unpredictability of the working relations with the Chinese company. So, although they have left open the possibility that they can add a sunset clause in the future as an amendment, but so far it seems that it's unlikely, just due to how tense it seems now the relations between the government and the Chinese company have ended up being.
I must admit, I do trust Labour to do it much more than I trust the Conservatives. If you look down in Australia, the Liberals down there, who are the right-wing ones, sold off Sydney Harbour to the Chinese for 100 years. So I don't really trust the Conservatives in this country not to do it. But I do think that I think it's a slow step in the right. It's a big step in the right direction. I do think so.
Yeah, it's a big step in the right direction, but of a slow-moving process.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's not going to be a whiplash thing where we suddenly, because people have this idea of nationalization that it's like NASA and the canal. I can't name it for the life of me.
Suez?
And the Suez Canal, that's it. And the Suez Canal, where the government steps in, grabs the company, and throws everybody out. So it's not like that at all. It's a gradual process, and it ensures that all of the departments are given proper leadership, and it's properly taken under the government's control. It's not a rapid thing that breaks things. I mean, if you compare a lot of stuff that was sold off and privatized in the 80s, the government has had to step in several times to help companies that were sold off from going bankrupt.
Yes,
I know,
but the issue with this that was happened today is we knew this was going to happen 16 days ago when the House was sitting. So I don't understand the reason why they've waited until now for it to be recalled, and they could have done something about it last week. You see, that's the issue I've got. I mean, is like what this is it the second or third Saturday they've sat in since in all their history. It's the second or third Saturday since the Falkland.
It's the fifth apparently.
Oh, is it the fifth Saturday? That's it. I knew it was quite low numbers. I know it's the first time on a Saturday since the Falklands that the Commons has sat.
Yes.
Except from obviously the death of Her Late Majesty, because that's part of a law. But I don't understand the reason why they decided to recall Parliament yesterday when they could have about it 2 weeks ago, though.
There was a general hope among particularly members within the business staff that they could be able to...
The business committee?
Yes, the business committee. They hoped that they could push a deal with the company, but apparently the communication between them and the Chinese company had ground to a halt by the end of last week. And it felt for a lot of them they were desperate still to get an answer from them, because they didn't want to seem like they were just going to go around the company and sort of say, we're now going to take over the plant. They were really hoping to get some form of response from the company, but after around about the middle of this week, it became clear that they were not going to get anything out of it. The company rejected their final proposal, and that made it quite clear that there was no other way forward other than to take over. So I guess there was just, they wanted to appear, at least publicly, that they were trying to the last leg to get it done through a private deal.
But I suppose the reason why the sort of the communications between the Business and Trade Committee and the Chinese company of Xingye have broken down is because of Trump's tariffs, surely.
Well,
Could be that
tariff
war. Could be it's also a dictatorship, and they do tend to be very unstable sometimes. China's not most.
Yeah, but it's not. It's the company's not. It's not government run though, is it?
It may not be government run, but Beijing can still threaten companies and say, "He does as we tell." Then your CEO is gonna find themselves disappearing. So yeah.
The tariff situation had no impact really on the company's operations, because there was no, at any point, any direct economic transfer through the United States. The United States is the economic tariff trade warring nation. So the only thing that really could have been seen as a potential impact is just because of the understanding among the British public about how important critical infrastructure is now to be British run and to come from Britain. But the Chinese company in question is a private company. It has plenty of other steel mills in other countries and many in China itself. And so it's, although had been running from insiders within the mill had been running it rather poorly already for years in advance of all of this recent debacle. So not appear to have been something just related to the tariffs. This has been an issue with the company for many years now. This simply, though, was just the company essentially flatly refusing to continue to operate it because of the expenses they were suffering.
So effectively, they were stalling, and the government was trying to get a deal out of it in some way. And they behaved as a lot of big businesses do, not looking out for the consumer, the ordinary member of the British public, but instead seeing how they can hold on to power and trying to find an out. And when they couldn't find it, the government effectively stepped in and said, "We've had enough. You haven't compromised with us, so now we're not going to take everything over fully, like the NHS, but we're certainly not going to let you run rampant over here anymore," effectively. Yes. I see it worked. I think it's a good thing, personally. I can't see any negatives behind it. British Steel.
I agree. I don't see. Obviously, the only negative I see really is the fact that there's no real end to the business secretaries. Not ownership, but has a bit of control over the government, over the company. Sorry, and that's my only sort of issue is, could that be exploited in the future? But I suppose that's something to look at.
Who is the business secretary right now? Do we know?
Jonathan Reynolds.
I highly doubt
Yes,
that.
Jonathan Reynolds.
I highly doubt that he's going to start. I mean, he has to keep an eye on every single company in the UK. I highly doubt he's going to turn around and try to use it for political reasons. They didn't even do that back in the 70s when they owned.
I'm not saying it'll be immediately, but I'm saying, say, 20, 25 years down the line, if the bill still stands, then there could be specific loopholes. Or sorry, significant loopholes that could be.
They said similar things. They said similar things when the NHS was started, and it's still standing.
Yeah, true.
I mean, this would be.
Well, the question is, what is the actual fear that the government could do? Because although, yes, it could potentially open potential avenues for the government to take a larger step into the manufacturing industry, what really is there to fear that the government could do to the steel industry when the steel industry in this country already doesn't really exist anymore? It's on its knees. There isn't really much damage the government can do because, well, Port Talbot is shut down currently, undergoing maintenance to rebuild it with new electric arc furnaces. And because of that, we only have one other steel mill in operation, which is what all of this has been about. So I can't really see how the government's overreach could be any more damaging than what's happened under private ownership already.
Because don't British Steel only have one manufacturing plant now at Scunthorpe?
Yes.
It used to be huge, but now it's only got one.
Yeah, because was Port Talbot British Steel. It was, wasn't it?
No, that was Tartar Steel.
That's it, yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. It'd be something to look out in the future for, and, yeah.
I agree. Going on to the next topic today. It seems that good old honest Bob Jenrick has got the knives out for Kemi. It's come out that he's eyeing up the leadership. He's going out, but he's doing at Esseltine what he's doing.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest here. The only way that he's going to get leadership is if the Tory parliamentarians oust Kemi, or she does absolutely atrocious in the local elections, which, let's be honest, yeah, it might happen, but I feel like it won't because people have lost faith in Labour and they won't want to go to Reform because of Reform's sparking allegations of what they have.
You have to look at because local elections are every 5 years, and these current local elections.
No, do you mean no? Then general elections every 5 years. Locals are split into those.
Local elections, wherever. These local elections coming up were last held, by and large, when Johnson was Prime Minister, and this was at the height of Johnson mania and all the rest of it. So she's obviously going to have a terrible.
No, this was before COVID. These ones were elected.
Yeah, so it's going to be it's going to be a slaughter for the Tory councillors.
I disagree. I think we're going to do quite well because I don't think people are going to be happy with Labour.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends.
I mean, stuff if
There is, if you think that. People use local elections as a referendum on the government's progress a lot. And they won't vote the same way, and as in a general election, they might choose to vote more flexibly in a local election. So, voting for parties they wouldn't usually do in order to send a statement to the Houses of Parliament that they disapprove or approve of governments or particular parties.
I mean, the last 9 months of the government have been absolutely atrocious.
Oh, no, it hasn't.
But it has been. If you think about it, you've cut winter fuel payments, you've completely, screwed up British farming completely with the inheritance tax. You categorically cannot say that one person or a Tory leadership contest is going to affect the elections, because it will, yes, but there's going to be more pressing issues, such as like you've completely basically cut benefits or you're revamping them. You've cut them basically. So realistically, I don't see how it's going to get any better for you.
And we just point out that under Rishi Sunak, there were plans to actually cut about £11 billion worth of benefits before the general election happened. Yeah, which is far beyond. No, you never did because you lost. But
But
That ain't.
but the thing is, I mean, this is a party of Labour who stand for the working class, who are completely disregarding who they care for. They're putting their money into the back pockets of big billionaires in Britain.
I'm not taking that from a Tory. I really can take.
I honestly don't care. I generally think it's absurd.
If we can get back to the leadership election now, I think what he's doing in the article that has come out, essentially what he's doing is he's doing a Heseltine. And first of all, everyone's bashing Heseltine, and I'm not having that. Good old Tarzan would have won that leadership election in 1990. If Thatcher stayed on, Tory MPs would have defected to him and he'd have become Prime Minister. They were looking at the best of, whatever the saying is about evils or whatever.
The best
They
of
were
two
looking at
eagles.
the best of two evils, and they went for Major instead of Heseltine because he was seen as this wild spirit that would be chaotic and all the rest of it. But what Jenrick is doing is he's doing a similar tactic to Heseltine. He's not outright attacking his leader, but he's subtly in the back rooms, not even telling them that he should be leader, but saying to them, oh, these local elections could be quite bad. And if they do, people are going to want to replace Kemi. I support her personally, but a lot of people aren't. So I don't know what we're going to do realistically.
I mean,
I'd be real shame.
the thing that concerns me with Rob Jenrick is, on a spot, the fact. Well, I'm calling him Rob Jenrick, but the thing that really concerns me is when he was he shadow immigration? No, he was immigration minister back when the whole Rwanda bill was going through and the immigration bill.
Oh,
and
yes,
he wanted to. Wasn't he wanted to put a clause in to deport anyone that came in here illegally? But I know that was part of the bill, but there was something that he wanted to do which everyone thought was absolutely absurd. And can you really have that
I mean, he really
as going forward to be a shadow leader?
didn't he used to be a sort of centre ground, middle of the road Tory, but then he pivoted right when he saw which way the party was going. I mean, just like Penny and several others.
I would still say that. No, I would say that Penny was always very centre right.
She didn't when the leadership election happened. She went from being, oh yes, I fully support the rights of trans people. Then she flipped and went, oh, well, the problem with trans people now.
Yeah.
But I do think the Tories are suffering on I haven't found an actual term for it. I got my own. It's called landslide-itis, where after a landslide loss, parties will flip to their most extreme faction as an excuse of why we lost. Labour did it back in the 80s. The Tories did it in 97.
Didn't they do that? Didn't Labour do that as well after the 2019 election?
No, we went with Ed Miliband. So
No, but you basically ousted Jeremy Corbyn.
no, we voted
yes,
for
it can
moderate.
be argued that he was. What are you talking about there? In 2019, we did. Yes, Jeremy Corbyn was generally considered to have been ousted by the party. Although he formally resigned, he was pressured by those within the Labour Executive Committee to leave due to.
It's the same really with Johnson. And as well, yeah, he was more ousted by the party rather than he wanted to resign because he thought he was doing perfectly fine, which I think he was doing fine.
Oh, I thought we were discussing the leadership election that followed his loss.
We were just talking about in general that when a party loses to a landslide election, they do get that sense of landslide-itis.
That's exactly what I just said. You're stealing my cat bait. I'm gonna pat you. They'll sue you if you ever use it again. But it really does seem the Tories have fallen for it. That the reason they've lost so badly was because they weren't conservative enough And the issue is that it's all well and good to argue on Facebook about immigrants and abortion, but these issues are very much turning a lot of people off the Conservatives because arguing about that doesn't put food on the dinner table. So a lot of people have turned away from them out of either protest or some feeling of betrayal in the hopes that they'll get back to being David Cameron-esque moderate.
I mean, I think
So-
it's quite helpful for the listeners to know that, Lee, you're standing in the election in May.
No, I'm standing in a by-election.
Oh, sorry, the by-election, yeah, but the council by-election, whatever, it's the local election.
April 24th.
Yes. So,
And
well, how is it looking like for you in Thatcham?
well, in Thatcham North East, I think it's a real toss-up. We've got everybody's running. You've got the Greens, the Lib Dems, Tories, Reform, and myself. I think it's difficult to gauge the actual feeling because everybody's very loud online, but it's the people when you're looking online. Most people won't argue online because they're too worried about being harassed by the more ideologically extreme voters. So more just pay attention to people looking at it. I mean, it could go any way, realistically. There's a lot of anger over the housing plan. There's a lot of anger open everywhere. So it could go any way. But who knows, probably.
So, I mean, I don't know about you, Thomas, but has any of your wards been affected by the local government reorganisation that Labour have been doing recently?
Yes, we're going to be dramatically affected by that.
Yeah,
We're going to merge into the authority of West England. So, yes, we're going to go through quite a lot. We're going to be merged with Bristol and Bath. So that's quite a lot.
Because you're at the minute, what are you? You're just
We're not included currently. We're on our own. But we're going to be merged into the authority of West England after the reshuffle.
that's what they're wanting to do with Plymouth. They're trying to put some of the outsider sort of wards into the Plymouth thing. Get rid of basically Torbay Council and Devon Council, I think it is, which proves difficult.
There's a lot of anger about it online. People saying that the leader of Plymouth Labour, Tudor Evans, is playing a strategy game, gobbling up smaller neighbours. I can see the reason behind it. It'll mean that if you're in Plymouth, if you're a member of Plymouth City Council, that is a hell of a lot of money and resources that then could be spent to benefit your area if it were taken into the Plymouth fold.
Yeah, no, I do see what you mean. That's the other issue with what do we do with the money? Like, because obviously they give you grants based on how much you've got in your council area, and we would be under the threshold to get the next grant, I think it is, or the top grant. We're under one of the thresholds, which is a big issue for Plymouth City Council, really.
Yeah, because it's quite a big, fairly important city.
It's a massive city compared to somewhere like, for example, let's say, for example,
Don't say it.
and I'm not going to come to you, but say somewhere, so I don't know if say Brighton, but say somewhere that's not got much. Say for instance, Salisbury or something. I don't know. Plymouth obviously has a lot more influence in terms of the fact that we've got the biggest naval base in Western Europe and our history, and also just that we have returned another MP in the history who is Conservative.
You've not got returned the concern. Oh yes, there's a little eastern bit that's Rebecca Smith.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Plymouth, Maine is Labour heartland at this point.
At the minute, it's with Fred Thomas and Luke Pollard.
Yeah, but anyway, but
going back to what we were saying, I feel like
only with the you go. I'll be
Okay.
joking.
I feel like that if anything did happen at the actual election, and we did have a massive landslide in the party and in our council, numbers that Kemi should go. Okay. But, I mean, whether that actually happens or not, I don't think she will. I think she'll stay, and I think she'll stay for at least another 6 months, maybe a year. And then...
So you don't think she'll survive all the way to the next general election?
I know, I'd hope she did, but I don't. If I was being optimistic, I would love to say yes. But if I'm being realist, no, she won't.
If the Conservatives were smart, they would have voted for someone like Cleverly or the Conservative Parliament.
No, because we wanted to see change. We've had people like Cleverly before, and in the last few years, and it's gone atrociously wrong. So we wanted change, and that's why we brought in Kemi, who's, let's be honest, she might be a lovely person, but how she presents to the media is very outspoken.
It's not how she presents to the media. It's, there was this whole row recently over the TV show Adolescence and how she almost sort of tried to put herself up on a hill.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. She puts herself out to the media in the wrong way, which doesn't get her the vote, and that's why people don't vote for her.
It's a ridiculous thing to try and say, me watching this TV show that is quite, what's the word? Adolescence, I've been told, is quite what's the word? Or when you look into something.
Quite eye-opening.
It's a very eye-opening show. So to turn around and say...
No, I haven't actually watched it, so I'm watching it probably tomorrow. But it does sound very, very, very good, and it does really highlight a lot of misogyny and issues around that.
Yes. I think
a lot of Tories have also felt rather the change that Kemi promised as being rather underwhelming so far, with very little sort of headliners in terms of policy changes and etc.
Well,
she hasn't really.
Go on, Thomas.
She hasn't really made any, but particularly to CCHQ, she hasn't really made any broad-eyed moves on that yet.
I disagree. She has. A couple of weeks ago, she set up she's revamped how Conservative Policy Forum works at just CPF, and that has given us as members of the party a lot more voice, and they're getting they're getting analysis of people who are interested in certain topical issues like immigration, like education, like, for example, healthcare or roads or transport and stuff like that. So realistically, I think what she's done in terms of revamping policy forums has been excellent. Actually, I think the speech she made a few weeks ago was brilliant, but
is that translating into action in Parliament? Because it seems that she's still sticking to the same Conservative lines they've been using for the last decade.
No, because this is only in the early days so far. And if I'm being honest, the one thing I've been very poorly disappointed with is the amount of legislation gone through in the Commons in the first 9 months. Bear in mind, they said they want to completely revamp everything. You've had general debate after general debate after general debate in the Commons at the minute.
I mean, it's all well and good having a big policy forum ship. That's all well and good. But the general public, and I think myself, I agree with them on this. She seems to be sort of chasing the coattails of reform very much. She doesn't seem to be coming up with her own ideas. She doesn't really have a Badenoch, is it? She just seems to be chasing Farage and his gang in the hopes of clawing back voters that they lost to them. So I think at this point, it really does seem as though she's probably going to be overthrown by someone. If it's not Honest Bob, then it's going to be someone that comes along. I would be surprised if they tried to bring up Michael Portillo or tried to get Kenneth Clark back in the Commons.
Well, that would be highly doubtful. He would have to go through a whole... Isn't he in the House of Lords now, Kenneth Clark?
Unfortunately, he is.
I like him. He's quite good. But he would have to... Obviously, that would be a big shift to what we've... We're going back to almost... There were decades, almost centuries, back when we had a leader of an opposition in the other house. That'd be
still not.
It can be done, but it would be it would just be shocking because we haven't had that in ages. And I
It
don't.
would be unprecedented.
That's
yeah.
the word, unprecedented. I reckon that if Kemi went right now, it would be the people going for her job would be Rob Jenrick,
Hmm.
Cleverly,
Hmm.
probably Tom again because he has the backing of people.
Yeah, all of the Scottish Conservatives seem to adore him. He's their darling.
Probably Mel Stride, if anything. Probably will be one more. So, or maybe Alex Burkhardt, who's Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, who I love. I think that's what
Isn't he her de facto deputy leader right now?
Yes, it is, and he was the one who made the speech to the members about about the CPF, and how he was putting it across was absolutely brilliant.
I think Angela Rayner was better.
Yeah, but she. Yeah, okay. You have that for you. I won't agree with it, but yeah,
Love Angela. But
Yeah.
I'm realistic. I think she's certainly not going to serve till the next election. That's a
yes, I don't think she. I would like her to, but I don't think she has the backing of members in the Commons.
no.
But yeah,
I think if that's all well and good, we should probably go on to the final topic today, Thomas, if you'd like to take it away for us.
Yes. So Peter Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense for the United States, has made a rather bold position by visiting and making rather interesting statements regarding Panama. He is positioning the United States in a official line that they are ready to take over the Panama Canal, and he's even claiming, in fact, I've seen recently that they are already in negotiations, which the opposition parties in Panama, at least, have all in a united voice said they are completely and unilaterally opposed to any sort of deal being made to return the Panama Canal to the United States. So this is quite a major development if the US is now already beginning to press the Panama government to start negotiating a return of the canal.
yeah, and
I mean,
I think this is another thing in the Trump administration that's just absolutely absurd. I mean, since he's got into power, what have you had? You've had Elon Musk doing a Nazi salute, allegedly, but it was. Let's be honest. You've had, is it the Gulf? Is he changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America or something?
yes.
There's that.
I'm
He's had obviously the tariffs. He's released the people who protested the Capitol on January the 6th. I mean, I just honestly. Go on, Thomas.
Well, we've also had, especially in things such as immigration policy, there have been major clampdowns so far on crossings from the Mexican border. We've had the deportation of thousands of people who are alleged to be connected to various gangs coming out of different Latin American countries. They have been en masse deported back in planes. We've obviously had the rather topical case where a legal birthright American was in fact deported among them. So that was an interesting case, and the Trump administration is refusing to return them back. So it's just a bad thing. It's just impossible.
It is literally just another thing after another thing after another thing for Trump, isn't it? And he's making it worse for himself. And the fact that he's trying to get in for a third term, I think, just poses internationally a massive security threat.
I do think.
Well, what it is.
Go on.
I do think, in terms of simply looking at the Panama Canal, ignoring all the other disasters, it can't go well for them realistically. The canal was it was built in under Teddy Roosevelt back in the 1900s. It was given to Panama by Carter in the 70s. And Panama historically has been a US ally, I believe, recent years. And you can't simply walk into
But now I've attacked them, can you really?
No, because the way he voiced the way he said it didn't make it sound as though, oh, we're going to sit at a table when we're going to calmly discuss potentially getting it back. He did say it very sort of hand-fistedly, as though they were going to march into Panama and take it, like NASA or something like that. I don't typically think it's a good idea. It can't end well. And it's like,
And it's very concerning coming from the nation that originally positioned itself as leader of the free world, for them to be essentially demanding the nation to hand over a piece of critical infrastructure which the United States did legally give them. It is very much brings into question the idea of national sovereignty and whether we can really take that for granted anymore.
Yeah, and I also sort of think that, say they decided to try and put any security threats against them or threat America, as in this is like to talk about the United Nations or anything, that couldn't happen anyway because of the fact that the US is in the Security Council.
Exactly, they'll veto it.
So honestly, I don't see how we, as an international world, we can really fight back to America and say what you're doing is wrong, because they'll just keep doing it and doing it and doing it again.
I think it's another example of sort of this disastrous administration, really. It's sort of been one, like you said earlier, Mark, been one thing after another. Did you know with the tariff thing that they didn't actually they used a random math equation to come up with the tariff percentages?
Yeah, they didn't even have any like independent people who came and looked at it, was it?
No, they just sort of put it together and said that all other countries deserve this tariff to protect industry. And the argument actually for tariffs is an incredibly flawed one. The last time they were actually used properly by an administration was back in the McKinley days, back in the 1900s.
Yeah.
And it caused a crash.
Well,
after.
Yes, it was after the stock crash and the offset of the Great Depression. Recently, there's been also the Democrats have launched a investigation into the Trump administration due to the fact that just before the 90-day pause was enacted by Donald Trump, he made an interesting post on Truth Social calling now is a great time to buy and putting hashtag various different IT companies and one of the US stock brokers. And this raised some eyebrows among some Democrats because immediately afterwards, when the pause was announced, the stock prices for those companies shot up to levels not seen since 2008, the highest one-day rise. And that has made people start to wonder whether there was actually some financial manipulation going on, because it would be a very serious offense if it was Donald Trump using insider information from the government to ensure that his rich businessman allies, not just within government but outside, were benefiting from the financial crash that has occurred and then the resulting boom for certain stocks once the pause was announced. So that would be very serious, possibly impeachable if it is proven.
Yeah.
Wasn't the
It's the old age saying of saying it's not it's not what you know, it's who you know, and I think that really sort of resonates with what Trump's doing at the minute, which is just, I can't believe that he's even doing it, to be honest. I mean, I knew we were sort of expecting it was like when he got in, it was going to be the next 4 years is going to be turbulent, but to say it's been like what it's only just been 6 months, hasn't it?
Yeah,
give or take 6 or 8 months now, 6 months, and he's already done all of this for the next 3.5 years. If I was an American lawman right now, 4 months. So 4 months. But if I was an American right now, I would be absolutely just terrified of what's going to happen to the country. But also, if I was a stocks and shares holder, I wouldn't know what to do right now.
I think the thing that Thomas was talking about, the Truth Social post, it was actually done in the midst of the exact same time as Senate hearing was happening. And they were talking to one of Trump's, I think, economic advisors that advised him on the tariffs. And so they had heard it from Truth Social, not Trump's actual advisor on economics.
Yes.
And they asked him about it. And effectively, he attempted to dodge the question and say, well, me and Mr. Trump talk about it and so forth. I think he said that he didn't know necessarily about the pause, which I think raises real eyebrow, because you would think it'd be like as if you were planning to invade a country and you hadn't told your Secretary of Defense about it.
But let's be honest, that could happen in the next 4 years.
It shows a real issue in the White House of sort of Nixon-esque, almost enclosed circle.
It's like a lack of communication, really, isn't it, between governmental departments and
The President of the United States. And I think that's not going to get any better. I think it's just going to
be this rampant circle.
I think so too. I think in terms of the whole Panama thing and how this affects it, I mean, it probably will be similar to the whole Canada comments and the Greenland comments, most likely, where they posture about it for a while, then eventually something else will come along, and then their eyes will be taken elsewhere. I can't see
What would you say, Lee, if something happened? What would you say would be the next thing that could happen that could move it away from their eyes away from something good, something else? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, in terms of what could happen, there's a number of things that might happen. I mean, Greenland could come up again, or Canada.
And so you've got 2 wars going on at the minute, and
oh yes, Ukraine and Russia.
Ukraine and also Israel and Palestine. So yeah,
I mean, feasibly, it could be anything for now. It could happen in Asia. There's a lot of it's been fairly quiet in Asia, geopolitics-wise, for a while now. So a lot of
except really from today, but not say the last couple of weeks with Chinese and British Steel, but
yeah, but the geopolitical-wise with North Korea, China.
well, I suppose there's not really been much, has there? But yeah,
Well, we've had actually have had quite a tumultuous period of time. We've had the complete collapse of the South Korean government. The state.
yes, about that.
And also we've had, for the first time, we've had as well Chinese naval ships were doing live fire exercises in between Australia and New Zealand during the winter, which shocked many Australian and New Zealand government officials because they had not been warned in advance, apparently. So it's definitely seems like tensions are racketing up quite a lot in the region, actually.
well,
Yeah, it seems preposterous, to be honest.
I'm just in a bit of a shock with what's going on with Trump at the minute.
The problem is that I can't see it as a temporary thing, because Donald Trump, even during all of this, we had, for example, Vance made a visit to a military base in Greenland, and continued to restate America's determination to welcome the Greenland people into the Union. And this was even during all of the other political upsets that were going on with EU relations and stuff like that. So it doesn't seem that even major distractions are turning away the Trump presidency's eyes on their so-called prizes. You could see Greenland as being one of them and Panama being the other. Before the election, definitely, they seem to occasionally visit them, but ever since Trump got into office, he's now been almost every week battering both Greenland and Panama, demanding they essentially enter into the US.
I would say that probably one of the most concerning things for me is that if, say, that Trump doesn't manage to enact that third term thing that he wants to do, amendment or whatever it is, that obviously Vance will probably run for president and get in. I don't think that'll get any better. I'm generally just I am generally just incredibly worried for the political state of the international world. At the minute,
I don't think he can. I don't think realistically there's any chance of him getting in because he doesn't have any kind of appeal among people. His appeal only seems to be around the Trump base, and that seems to be it.
that's what I
So
mean.
if they do-
But think about America and how much influence Trump has at the minute, and how many supporters he's got. People like JD Vance because they like Trump, and they're, dare I say,
Yes.
they're sort of the same political persuasion and views. So
Yes, well, Vance takes a lot of his is almost seen as even more radical in some respects than Donald Trump actually.
Yeah,
because
that's what
been absorbed, for example, with his relations with, for example, Volodymyr Zelensky. It was Vance that was really leading the charge on the attacks with on Zelensky. Donald Trump was sort of following along. So it seems that Vance is almost more radical in a way.
It's almost-
confrontational.
yeah, it's almost like JD Vance does something and then Trump continues to do it. For
Yes.
example, for Zelensky back in, was it last month? Was it March that happened? Yeah, it was.
It was March,
In
yeah.
March, yes. And then the outpouring from Europe that came across, I thought was absolutely excellent. To be fair,
I mean,
Yeah.
although it was a national disgrace because it happened in front of the cameras, it's not the first time. I think it was Lyndon Johnson got into a fist fight with the former Canadian Prime Minister back in the 60s because he'd accidentally condemned Johnson to Vietnam. But I think the problem with it is that he did it in such a vocal way at a time when obviously Ukraine is trying to defend itself. So to have the gall to say that to a leader that's currently trying to fight for his people's independence, I think is quite an awful thing and quite a disgrace, to be honest.
oh, I think it's a massive disgrace, and it's
I think it should make a lot of European countries question whether the United States is truly an ally anymore and whether we should actually step up with our own defense, our own economic alliance, and with our political alignments.
I suppose that's also why a lot of countries have upped their defense spending, isn't it? Because they're worried
Exactly, yes.
about America, and I think if I was in Keir Starmer's position right now, I would do the same.
I know it's caused an uptick recently, and I've seen a lot of people talking about it online and things. The idea of CANZUK, which would be an alliance between Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, and a way to form a military alliance to protect themselves in case, and in fact they'd combine into one great big nation, I believe, is the idea. Has become increasingly.
I wouldn't say it's a nation. I'd say it's more of an organisation.
So I think they want it to be similar to like the EU, but the Anglosphere.
Yeah, which I don't know if that'll actually happen. And I still think we should be.
It was very popular among it. It was a popular idea after Brexit among some backbencher Tory MPs, and they started to throw the idea around, but it never really went anywhere. Although there is an official organisation now set up called CANZUK, it hasn't really gone anywhere since. So I guess, yes, in these times, there are questions again about whether we should look into it. I know that Canada would be very keen to step up to join that because they feel very threatened by the United States rhetoric, and that kind of alliance would help give them at least a feeling of a guarantee of safety in the case of a US attack on them.
Can I ask, do we think that the Trump presidency is just going to destroy the Republican Party, or do you think it will continue after?
I think it will be massively
The party
harmful
will
to it.
continue, but the party will survive, but their support won't.
I think what will happen, it'll be a bit like what's happened in the UK with the Tories. And coming as a Conservative, I hate saying this, But obviously we've been ousted from government, and it's going to take time for us to rebuild. Similarly, it's going to take time for Republicans in America to rebuild.
It's a difficult thing because political parties, you can't become too arrogant about your right to exist. It's what the Liberals used to do, and then they collapsed in the 1910s and 1920s. Similarly, Swedish predecessor to Republicans, the Whigs, collapsed over the argument about slavery. So as a party, you can never become you can't feel entitled to exist. You have to transform in some way. I think as people get older and more people become of age to vote, I think the Republicans will probably shift their ideology a lot more to make.
That was why after Obama won the election, the Republicans changed entirely because they understood that their old Republican strategy that had been going on for about 100 years was now out of date and was no longer working. And it so happened that Donald Trump, a businessman, decided that this would be a great time to launch his platform of MAGA, and it was very successful, and it won them 2 elections. So in their opinion, that was the point when they decided to change in order to survive. But it obviously will run its course, and it looks like they may run out of steam with that idea at least. So we'll have to see whether they are able to survive on MAGA or they need to actually adapt again and change away from that.
But I feel like, I'm not going on a tangent here, but what I was going to say was, I feel like with Trump, a massive role of why he got in was because of social media. And I feel like the relationship between the political sphere and social media definitely plays a massive part. And I would say that's also why going back to sort of the more domestic British side, why we've seen a massive increase in membership in Reform. And the fact that we've got more people on social media spreading their political views, and that's influenced other people, which is why we've got this.
Well, I mean,
Go on, Toz.
in 2016, we didn't really have any major social media platforms still. We had Facebook and Twitter, which were really the mainstream things. Instagram was a bit of a startup company.
Yeah.
That wasn't really used very much. And so it was mainly through Facebook that at least the Trump campaign took off.
And that's why I say
and-
when Trump had his Twitter account, I would say the first presidency, that's sort of why he got in.
Yes, well, he almost governed through Twitter, it seemed, a lot of the time.
Yeah,
A lot of his major policy announcements were made on Twitter, and then they would be told to everyone else after they were told on Twitter. So it was quite an interesting way of governing. And I think that introduced, actually, to pretty much most other governments, the way of using the internet as a platform for governance. Because you can see now that pretty much every single leader, head of state of a country has a social media account that they post out stuff that they're doing, announcing stuff that they've done. That was pretty much led by Donald Trump. Donald Trump started that platform of using social media to announce things and used it as a way to raise awareness of government policy.
Yeah, and I would say also that's something I would definitely applaud with the social media side is sort of with government departments in the UK, how they've now set up like TikTok accounts. So they're trying to get more people of a younger generation of sort of our age and younger into politics, because we are definitely a minority in the political world.
And that's why it tends to be that political parties, most of the time, do tend to garner most of their policies towards the older generation, because 65 plus and other age groups vote a hell of a lot more than young people do. I think I saw for the general election, most recent general election we had, I think it was 47% of 18 to 24-year-olds came out and voted, which was a historic high, I think.
But I don't think that's really a representable figure, because I think that's probably people just voting to get the Tories out.
But potentially, but I do think that I remember looking at a statistic where it was if 18 24-year-olds voted in the same percentage as 65-year-olds, Brexit probably wouldn't have happened. So I think, because I know there's a lot of issues online and statistically I've seen with young people who feel very politically isolated and turned off by politics.
Yes.
So I think if we voted a lot more, you would see political parties move towards the things young people care about a lot more. Their issues and their views wouldn't be left behind as much.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
I think the big issue for me in the whole thing is that, to go back to Trump, his political ideology, he's managed to turn a lot of more right-wing members away. I know Nick Fuentes, who's a very far-right YouTuber, top far-right YouTuber, I believe, has turned on him and said that he's an autocrat and that he got it wrong and that he's sorry. I know Alex Jones has turned on him as well.
Yeah.
And there's several very right-wing pundits have all turned. I think Candace Owens has as well recently, and said she was right.
Yes. I would say that Trump is just a whole new level of right wing.
I think there was a political scientist who described him as not a fascist, but a neo-fascist, a liberal fascist. That's the term he used, in that he's so focused on this idea of freedom, so-called, with massive quotation marks around it, but it seems to be freedom only for groups that he likes, effectively. If you don't fit into a group that Trump approves of, then in his view, you shouldn't have the same freedom as other people. I know he's cracking down on
You're basically an outcast.
Yeah, I know he's also started to turn on groups that voted for him. There's a bill going through the House or the Senate right now, which would make it, I think, difficult or impossible for married women to vote. I can't remember the exact.
Oh, I saw that.
I've seen that. I feel like that's absolutely absurd. Bearing in mind that 100 years ago, women didn't even have the vote, or 105 years ago, whatever that, when women didn't have a vote. And now he's trying to turn back the clocks to go back to that. I think it's absolutely absurd, and I think that's vile from him.
It's 100 years of social progress being reversed in a matter of months.
Yes.
It's deep. Because he's very much, I can't see the Supreme Court challenging him on much, given that he has appointed several of them, and so they know effectively.
But surely that brings some level of accountability to him. But it doesn't. It doesn't bring any accountability to him, because he's appointed people that are his supporters. Which surely there should be some loop system that stops him from doing that.
This is why I prefer the British Supreme Court, because in the American Supreme Court, everybody knows who it is. They're celebrities in a way, but with the British Supreme Court, it's lawyers that work their lives, and
they have experience. They have learned experience, where in America, let's be honest, they don't.
They're not appointed for political reasons and have the whole charade of a big Senate hearing where effectively they poke at their ideology.
Yes.
They're appointed based on whether or not they'll be good for the court and will hold the government to account whether or not whatever government is in office.
Yes.
And I do think it certainly showed a lot of it, but I think we've had a good 3 conversations today. If you two,
I think we have. I think it's been very, very good, and I hope that you at home have really enjoyed listening to this.
So yeah, Lee, do you want to end it?
Yes, we will catch you next week, where we shall be talking about 3 more incredibly important topics, and if anything really dramatic or shocking happens between them, we will have a emergency one to discuss it and let you know all the ins and outs of it. But we hope you very much enjoyed, and we hope you have a very lovely week, and we shall see you next time. Goodbye.